Welcome to Blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. Plenty of blame to go around. Plenty of blame to go around. Join Dave Cyrus and Marissa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
I am one of your hosts, Dave Cyrus. Another one of our hosts is Marissa Smith. Say hello, Marissa.
Hello.
Today we have... Say your name, sir.
Richie Redding.
And...
Pete Brocker.
Thank God. Okay, guys. How are we doing today?
Good.
Good. We are here. It's today is a Sunday. We've been talking a lot about the Brett Kavanaugh nomination hearings. Of course, this will air after what is going to happen for us tomorrow, Monday, where Dr. Ford is going to testify.
I thought she was testifying Thursday.
Monday.
No, I think it's Thursday now.
They moved it to Thursday.
Yeah.
They didn't move. God damn it! It was just. I felt like this morning I saw them say Monday.
No, so her lawyers have been
Because they were basically
back
saying
and
to her,
forth.
she was like, well, I can only do Thursday. And they said, then you can only do Monday. Like, they're just trying to stop this from happening.
Well, at first she was saying that she wouldn't testify until the FBI opened up an investigation, and then, basically they were just like, no, we're not opening. Grassley was like, we're not opening up an investigation, and then they're like, but if you don't come, we're just going to have the vote on Thursday, and then I think her lawyer basically agreed that she'd come on Thursday.
Dude, it's so crazy that he was part of the Anita Hill panel.
Yeah.
Which guy?
Grassley, yeah.
By the way, Grassley...
27 years ago, this motherfucker was still
not-
on the Judicial Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
crazy.
was Grassley the guy who said, heavens, I'd hate to think what people would say about things I did 35 years ago?
Yeah.
And then someone was like, 35 years ago, you were a senator!
And also, like,
But I was
52.
handsy.
Who isn't Claire McCaskill wasn't there, but she was elected in that wave of women, right? The next year.
Yeah.
That was when she came in. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty sought after committee, but I mean, they might as well serve for life. Senators, there's so many that have been there for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, how is there not term limits on that shit?
I mean,
Every other country has them. We're like the only major country that has lifetime judges.
Well, no,
sorry about senators.
yeah.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
But even
Sorry to
how
bother
are
you,
there
Dave.
not-
I'm sorry, we're just trying to have a podcast while you text here. Don't mean to interrupt you.
I promise this is more important than the show.
I promise you it's somebody famous. Dick.
But no, how do we not have better challengers? You're telling me that a guy with like a 15% approval rating wins elections for 30 years?
Yeah.
You don't have a single person that could step up from an entire state to challenge them effectively?
Yeah, look, yes, he did used to own slaves, but he's the name we know.
Yeah, and also shouldn't Grassley really not even be one of the people in charge of these confirmations when he's kind of wrapped up in this, when it was his office that's part of the accusations of perjury?
What do you mean?
Grassley's...
Well,
Yeah.
that's one thing I did want to say is that I feel like the sexual assault from 30 years ago is one of the less disqualifying things about Kavanaugh.
Right. He's already perjured
You
himself.
think lying like 3 times under oath is a
Yeah, like that's
catching point?
Yeah. This administration supports lying, and so obviously that might be a prereq for them. But yeah, I think that perjury typically was a problem for sitting judges. I think that
Right.
historically that hasn't been the best thing for career advancement.
And
Yeah,
he
he had
perjured
a-
himself in 2006.
Right, about having a mole in the office, about some other votes. It's very unseemly, and it's a lot more job related, like you were saying, than something he did in high school.
And then didn't he also lie about being involved with the torture practices under George W. Bush after 9/11?
I thought he said he didn't recall, but maybe in his previous testimony he had said that he didn't, and he did.
So he said he was never read in on anything about torture and that he had no involvement about torture. But then when they pulled up his emails, he was basically in all the emails, should we have torture? What do you guys think?
Should we call it torture?
It's just no, enhanced interrogation is what we should call it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all. I actually think Cory Booker had one of the best lines of question with him during his confirmation hearing when he was talking about voter ID laws, and he sort of drew out essentially that it cost a guy, a World War II veteran, it took him like 2 weeks, cost him $36, and the governor had to get involved to get him an ID, which all sounds terrible enough in and of itself. But $36 is almost exactly adjusted for inflation what the poll tax was in like 1870.
Right.
So he had almost directly supported poll taxes because it was only like $1 or $2 back then, but it was sufficient to keep.
Dude, I'm trying to change my driver's license from New Jersey to New York right now. And to get the enhanced ID that you're going to need by 2020 to be able to get on planes and stuff, just having my passport and my Jersey driver's license isn't enough. I need the passport. You can't. The Jersey license does nothing. Birth certificate and Social Security card.
Which is kind of crazy because neither of those things has your picture on it. Like
it's nuts.
Yeah.
I will Photoshop you one of those today.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, I had to, like, have my mom find it. Like, the birth certificate and Social Security card I just never had.
Yeah.
They just moved, so it was this whole process. Like, imagine if you're somebody that is from another country, is constantly afraid of getting arrested, and you're going to jump through those hoops to try to vote for somebody illegally.
Well, also if
Not
you're like
a
Just-
chance.
Yeah.
Just to get yourself deported.
Yeah.
That's how much your, let's face it, non-meaning vote is worth to you.
Yeah.
But like even if you're an older person or like you were born in a rural area, like what happens if you were born at home? Like a lot of people that were actually like physically born in their house don't have birth certificates because like they just don't, they don't issue it if like you're not born in a hospital. And if like there are a lot of like nuns and things like that just don't have any of this documentation at all. And
They shouldn't drive.
Well,
not even
or
like
well, that
I
and
guess.
poor people move. Poor people have to move more, and
Well,
there's just turnover, and your stuff gets lost or whatever.
like
it is.
with
you're
all
less
these
yeah.
hurricanes. Like, what if all your shit like floated away in Katrina? Like,
So I will say, helpful hint to anybody out there that needs a birth certificate. If you go to the town hall of the town you were born in, you can get a certified birth certificate that way.
But
Not
you
if you're
have
from
to go
Hawaii.
back.
If you're from Hawaii, you
See what
probably
you
have
did
to
there.
actually go back to Kenya where you were really born.
You secret Muslim.
So, Dave, what's going on with Alex Jones?
Oh, it's great. So we got kicked off PayPal now.
Yeah.
I can't even, which is basically the thing is, none of these things are really going to stop Alex Jones and InfoWars. They're just making it a lot more annoying for them.
Dude, his followers will just start putting cash in the mail.
Yeah. Well, Alex Jones figured out in the world of the internet that you can just steal from every crazy person at once. He's basically just a filter for all the mentally ill people who are looking for something to give them their lives meaning, and he steals from them with snake oil. Literal, modern day versions of just a magic pill that'll make your dick hard and cancel out all the he makes up fake things the government does so he can sell
cancel out the estrogen in the
pill.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pill that stops and it's one of those things where everyone was just so tolerant of this for no particular reason.
Well, it's just like the best update on the Nigerian prince email.
Yeah.
Like he took that to another level, and he was like, "Look, this guy's getting pretty sloppy. His grammar's not great in his email." And he started a podcast where he essentially was like, "I'm going to sell garbage," and it's the same thing. He's just taking money for nothing. They're never going to get any benefit from anything. It's the same. I mean, I actually would support his followers should wait for a Nigerian prince to email them asking for a few $1,000s and send their money to that scam artist just for a change of pace.
Because
For a
at
change
least
of
that
pace.
Nigerian prince is probably being written by an actual poor person.
Do you
who
think
needs
there's
this money.
anything actually in the bunker food cans that I bought from him? Or
I mean, I think that he knows he's running a
it
scam.
sucked.
Unicorn shit.
But yeah, we get into the bunker and those things are just filled with water. Jones.
The label peels off. It's just Alpo dog food.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the best case scenario.
And that's the worst thing about this.
I
is
think
that
it's
we
just. I think it's basically just the blank CD scam.
And it becomes a
That
question
is
of
my favorite
How
thing.
much of this does he even believe himself? Because he believes some of it, but obviously not all of it, because he knows he's selling fake stuff.
He doesn't believe any of it, I don't think. And I
Right,
say
well-
that because he's been deposed before, and in his deposition, he comes out and says, "I'm an actor. This is all an act. This is a show."
Yeah, that's
Like,
what he
this
did
is
to
my
avoid
character.
Yeah, but when he says that,
millions
he's
to the
also
Sandy Hook
lying.
people.
Because he's
Right.
because he's
That is
certainly
true.
trying to make his followers believe it's real. He wants them to believe it's real. He wants his followers to watch him say that and be like, "Huh, look at him outsmart them."
Yeah, but I mean, it's gonna go to it's probably gonna hurt attracting new listeners, but all of his listeners now are gonna be 100% subscription based. That they're because they're gonna all move over to Patreon, and if Patreon kicks them off, there's a platform called Hatreon, which is
Super original.
it's basically like, hey, want to give some money to ISIS? Come on over to Hatreon.
Funny thing about Alex Jones is that he's not the people I've spoken to who used to love him and now hate him. It's not because those people got their minds back. All those people were all people who told me that they hate Alex Jones because they figured out he works for the CIA, making up fake conspiracies, but the real conspiracies are the ones that they're into. And
You know these people?
I've interviewed people in my capacity as a comedian to try to, make fun of them. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people say they're like, "Oh no, Alex Jones is a mole. He's trying to make us look bad. QAnon is who you want to really look at. They're the
Right.
smart people." Because anyone they see it long enough, they're just going to in their heads just be like, "Nah, I've decided you're part of them."
Well, yeah, if you become too mainstream, that's like the kiss of death, right?
Yeah. The fact that we could see his face.
I think part of the problem is that, there's no end to this spiral, right? Because Q then is going to become the deep state, and there'll be like X-anon, and it'll just cycle down and down until.
And you said Hatreon wasn't original. I would love to see QAnon pissed. Like, what the fuck? We started with the Anon. That was us. We did that.
Lily, we know all what QAnon actually is, right? Not what they say it is. Like, they really believe that it's someone high up in the government
Right,
who's
right,
giving
right,
them
right.
clues. It would be really, really cute if it wasn't destroying the earth.
Well, it's also, there is somebody high up in the government giving us all clues, and they wrote an anonymous op-ed in the Times to give us a clue that this is really bad.
Right.
Of course, they're doing the exact opposite of what QAnon does. QAnon is one saying Donald Trump is the only good person in the history of the United States, and he's desperately and these are people saying that Donald Trump stopped a child sex ring, but was so humble he didn't want anyone to know about it.
Right.
Yeah.
These are people who are deeply,
I will say-
deeply ill.
And that's why he's kidnapping more children.
Well, or losing them, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that,
And another 1,500 kids have been lost since, I believe, January.
which,
It's just the world's longest game of hide and go seek.
or depending on where the kids end up, hide and go human traffic victim.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's,
Exactly.
that's
Well, that's why we're stealing all those kids from the people coming here illegally, I guess. Trump wants to make the theories true somehow in some sort of warped way.
he's shutting down all of the immigration system so that he can just import children as just human trafficking victims. Brought to you by QAnon. But so that's a headline that is, I think, a little bit overblown. It's a voluntary call system where they could reach out and try to make contact with these
Oh, no,
big
no, no.
sponsors.
We talked about it in the show. I'm not referring to the missing kids. I'm referring specifically to the hundreds of kids who were taken from their parents at the border that the judge said they had to give back and did not, and we're still not giving back. There's still hundreds of kids who the government has basically said, we don't think we can get them back. I'm not referring to the missing kids. That was a previous thing. Those were kids that they were trying to get in touch with, and simply a lot of them were simply ignoring calls from immigration because they didn't want to give the kids back. I'm talking about the fact that we have, separate from that completely, hundreds of children that a federal judge ordered to be given back to their parents and are still being held somewhere else.
Well, yeah, and so part of that is because their parents were deported without them, which they
Yeah.
were assured wouldn't happen. And so that's obviously not great. But even the kids who their sponsors aren't returning phone calls, there's concern there that those kids are also going to be human trafficking victims,
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Because-
labor, essentially forced labor
Right.
victims.
Like, if they are released, what's the process where they're released on the other side of the border and the parents, and they can't contact the parents? How do they resolve that?
I don't think they can release them on their own to the other side of the border because, like, one, they don't really have any documentation proving where they were from to begin with, and because they're minors, they have to be released to a guardian. And so, like, basically, like, for the, like, Dave's talking about the ones where the parents were sent back and they were separated. These are ones where they've gone through the system and they were placed in, like foster care, essentially, or placed with an alleged family member, and now they don't know what happened to these kids.
Yeah.
So, like, some of them, they're not returning their phone calls. Some of them, these people simply are not there, and they don't know, like, what's happening to these kids. And some of them most likely are being trafficked, and it probably is, like, some sort of, like, and to some degree, I have to think that a percentage of these kids have, like, been kind of thrown into, like, a trafficking mill at some point. Like,
people were falsely claiming that they were their
right.
guardians somehow. Yeah.
I think that is probably not typically the story, though. I think that the most likely story is that they were released to sponsors that are illegal immigrants themselves and are not returning phone calls because
they're terrified.
Which we on this show we've said that exact same theory. But like I said, it was important that we separated those stories because those were before the family separation policy.
Well,
those were kids who were separated by the old policy. Now we have a much worse policy where they're actively trying to separate families. We even found out that they had that suddenly the numbers of people who were being detained with families was higher than the ones when you came alone. Meaning if you came with kids, they were considering that a higher crime now.
Well, I think they did explicitly consider it a higher crime because now you have child endangerment that they're claiming.
Well, they're also claiming that these, like, one of the things that they're doing is that if you're a parent and you're bringing your child over, they're claiming that you're trafficking your own child. And so, like, that's another crime that they're charging the parents with, is with trafficking children. And so that's how they're separating the kids out from there for the people that are crossing at legal borders. So, like, you know, there's sanctioned areas that you can go and try to claim asylum and say, okay, I'm trying to seek asylum here, and you're trying to get documentation. Then they're saying, oh, you have this child. Where is your documentation that you're the parent? And they've been robbed, like, trying to get here. A lot of them, you know, they're fleeing shit, so they don't have this documentation.
Right. Nobody comes here on a winning streak.
Right. And so now they're saying, well, you don't have documentation proving that this is your child. You're trafficking this child. We need to separate you from this kid because you're a child trafficker. Now this person has to prove, like, no, I'm not trafficking this. Like, this is my kid. And they're like, listen, we'll send you back and we won't arrest you for child trafficking. Like, you need to go back home and self-deport. And they're agreeing to that, not knowing that part of that documentation is also saying they no longer have, like, the right to their kid anymore.
So it's actually almost that's almost a separate issue, I think, because it's actually almost worse than that. Even if they believe you that is your kid, because of the zero tolerance policy, they still were arresting the parents no matter what. They were treating entering the country illegally as a crime. They're arresting the parents in that instance.
Even at legal crossings.
There's a so if you're admitted into the country, then you wouldn't be arrested because that would be an illegal entry.
Right, because the people coming here for asylum still have to find a way inside before they apply for asylum.
Well, so technically, you can just show up at any point of entry in the country and under international law present yourself as seeking asylum. This administration has taken the position that essentially they have, like, a closed-door policy.
Right.
And so actually there's it's really interesting what's happening down, and if you want to look into it, at the southwestern border, where essentially they've outsourced our asylum processes almost to Mexico to screen people, basically. It's and not screen in any legitimate manner, just this is the number of people we're taking today, figure out who it's going to be. And it's like basically getting a deli number trying to get asylum, which is at best questionable under international law. But if you illegally enter the United States, it's technically a crime. And so previous administrations have accepted that, if you're seeking asylum and you enter illegally, it's kind of part of seeking asylum. You have to show up how you show up. Like, you probably lied on your application to get into the country. We're not going to prosecute that because that's how this works. This administration has taken a zero tolerance policy. So you show up here with your family, you get in, you get caught. Now you're going to jail, and your kids can't go to jail with you. There's an old case where the federal government voluntarily agreed to bind itself through it's called a consent decree. They would not imprison children in this manner. So now the children have to get sent to a separate detention facility, which were like old Walmarts. They just put up like cages like you see at a Pound or something, and that's how they.
Yeah, that's the stuff that really went viral.
But
Yeah, that was the part where we were like, "Hey, I think you're lying when you said this is not a new policy since you just had to build a bunch of new places to put these children you took."
Yeah, and a Walmart that you're going to put out of business.
The fact
Right.
that wasn't something, by the way, the fact that wasn't something that we crucified them for is amazing. Like they just openly said, this is not a new policy. We've always been doing this." Like, how in God's name do we get to a point where they just think they can get away with that?
well, they did get hit with that. Even
it was
Republicans
it was
in Congress and the
insane. They
Senate.
tried to say that.
Yeah, but
the shit cycle just moves so fast, though, that it's like
Well, so-
nothing can stick because there's just so many scandals.
And
Yeah.
getting to the reunification point, though, the system that the federal government uses, and it's Customs and Border Patrol at that point, not ICE. The Customs and Border Patrol system had a category where it was admission with children. It would keep everybody together in their system, and they stopped using it essentially for this situation so that they could break everybody up. And so now there's nothing linking parent and child in the federal government's database for at least some parents and children.
What if we gave them like serial number tattoos on their arms?
It's a fresh idea. I've never heard of that.
I'm spitballing here. I don't know. Sorry.
No, yeah. So that's the problem with reunification now is that there's no easy way for them to link the parent and the child, and because it's the Trump administration and they don't care unless you're a rich white man about your life. Basically, they were deporting parents without their children, and because this system never linked them to begin with, it's even harder once they're deported to try and figure out.
Right.
I mean, they created a system that basically sounds like it was intended for them never to be able to get their kids back.
Right.
I mean, it's the very idea of starting the system and just it's not like these people are that stupid that the people who run this could have not noticed. They're like, clearly there's no way we can get these kids back. We haven't given them a fucking ticket that we ripped in half and gave to a parent and child. That's how simple this could have been.
And realistically, there will probably be at least some kids that are permanently orphaned from this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty right now who are not going back.
But it just seems insane that we can literally track a package coming from Amazon better than we can track a kid.
Well, I think we probably could have tracked the kid. I think what's
It's
insane
a
is that we
toy,
Chose
yeah.
not to.
Yeah, it seems to be a deliberate choice that was made that we didn't care enough to try.
And it's just so weird because, like, to what end that now we're stuck with, in their language probably, that we're stuck with this Mexican kid now. That we can't.
You think they call them Mexicans? That is adorable.
I was softening it for the room. But yeah, I mean, like, you basically wind up with this person who, like you said, is an orphan that is obviously going to be relying on the state for a pretty long time.
Which they're starting to use more and more as a reason to deny people entry altogether now.
Right. If you're using welfare assistance, then you can't get.
If it looks like you might. If it's just like a reasonable possibility.
And when they say looks like, they're basing that entirely on your face. They're saying you look like you're going to be on welfare.
Yeah.
Based on how much you don't seem to use sunscreen.
I feel like this is where the left needs to get its act together. Is just start putting just rebrand Welfare Queen. Let's just get some nice Norwegian families to come pose for some ads.
Mormons.
And that's
Well, Trump was the one who said we need more white immigrants.
Dude, Mormons use welfare more than any other population.
But in the sense that they get to say that they're single parents when they're not, and then they can get the benefits for it when in fact they're not doing that. And this happens with a lot. That's in a lot of communities. A lot of people are milking the system, which is going to happen. The problem is everyone acts like if one person gets welfare illegally, it means we should make millions of people starve to death as revenge.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one thing that never gets reported on is the rate of non-use of available programs. So people that should be using it because they are legitimately eligible, there's something like a 15% is typically the estimate of people who are entitled to food stamps or some form of relief that never use it out of pride or not knowing it's available.
And aren't they more likely to be immigrants than anyone else? The ones who don't use government services?
Yes, but so if you're an illegal immigrant, you're actually only entitled to some welfare benefits. The federal government typically ties benefits to status, or I say typically, sometimes ties benefits to status. So depending on the program, you actually might not be eligible. So even discounting that population, welfare fraud has never amounted to the same percentage as the percentage of people who don't use and should. So welfare across the board is a bargain, even if some people abuse it, because other people who should be using it aren't.
We're talking to you, old dirty bastard.
Oh, God rest his soul.
Oh, that was the best.
Now, you ever hear him, by the way, did you ever hear Old Dirty Bastard specifically defend himself from the exact thing you're talking about? When Old Dirty Bastard, while a millionaire,
Took a limo.
went in his limo to the welfare office to cash in his welfare
with
check.
MTV
With MTV
recording.
cameras, and
Yeah.
everyone was really mad. And then, so in an interview, he tried to explain it and say, well, look, I thought the joke was going to be that I don't get welfare anymore because I'm rich. But then when I got there, I realized there was still like $60 on my account. And then he was like, but that was the account that I was entitled to from before I got rich.
Funny.
It was like, nah, man, it's still bad. But I saw him like try to like explain this away.
Yeah.
Can you literally imagine, like, that was a 90s MTV joke. Guy with a fur coat walks to the welfare office, cashes his check.
As Mariah Carey sings the hook.
And he kept saying, he goes, this was my money because I earned, because I was a lot of this, but back when I was broke.
Yeah, that's great.
That's an argument that I could see any member of the Trump family making, by the way.
Of course.
And so, like,
I thought you were going to say the Wu-Tang Clan.
By the way, speaking of Old Dirty Bastard, this is just something I've made a point about with Old Dirty Bastard. Do you know how old he was when they started calling him Old Dirty Bastard?
Like 19 or something.
He was like 25.
Funny.
Do you know what you have to be doing to be 25 and earn the name Old Dirty Bastard from a bunch of, like, tough Staten Island dudes?
Other Wu-Tang guys.
From other, like, you, I'm just saying, I'm going to assume that Old Dirty Bastard was fucking the youngest girls you've ever seen in your life, because I don't know how else you earn that name at that age.
I mean, in that situation, he's a solid candidate for the next Alabama Senate seat. Then,
Well, I don't know if you know this, but Roy Moore has never been accused of any sexual impropriety, according to a recent interview with Roy Moore. When Roy Moore was on Sacha Baron Cohen's Who Is America, and they did a test where he had a pedophile meter, and he says, I have never in my entire life been accused of such a thing. It's like, okay, man.
Yeah, well, he's also suing him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all trying to. They're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, the entire country of Kazakhstan sued him. I think he can handle a little Roy Moore action.
Kazakhstan was like, we want you to come here. We're going to give you a medal. Like, literally, the country of Kazakhstan sued him and then dropped the suit and said, we have changed our mind. Just come here. We want to give you something.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, you know what Kazakhstan also accused him of? Being an Uzbekistani spy.
No way.
They said the whole thing was Uzbekistan did it
that's
all to
so
make them look
funny.
bad. As if Uzbekistan has any comedians of that caliber.
Yeah.
No offense, Uzbeks.
not to shit on the Uzbekistani comedian community, but
Well, and also that you can just very simply find out that it was Sacha Baron Cohen and not somebody named Borat.
Yeah, I mean, you would think once they found out he was like
The same guy that did Ali G.
he was,
Like,
you know,
oh.
an Israeli guy from England, I would think they'd be like, yeah, we'll buy that. We'll buy that that's the guy trying to destroy our country. I feel like those people aren't that.
Yeah,
I feel like no one is.
Pin it
finds
on the
hard to believe.
J's instead, you
I
know?
feel like a Kazakhstan Uzbekistan rivalry is like C-list rappers having a rivalry. Like,
Yeah.
why even bother? Like, he's an Uzbek spy, and really CNN is
Yeah.
picking this up.
It's like
you know,
a
that's
it's
always
like a
been
battle. It's a battle between Apache and the guy who cut his dick off.
That's just always been a fascination of mine, though. Like with human nature, of like the genetically closer you are to the other tribe, the more vitriol you hate each other with.
Oh God, the day that as a Jew you realize that Protestants and Catholics hate each other, you're like, really?
Yeah, I mean, dude, Irish and like Northern and Southern Irish, it's crazy.
Oh, like the ginger and the black Irish, hate each
Pakistanis
other.
and Indians, like just
They're fighting. They've been fighting over one sweater for 600 years.
just spitting on the ground.
Yeah, that freaking Kashmir, they love it. They cannot. Both of them just can't let it go. It must be the nicest place in history. Just willing to kill each other over it. We got 5 minutes left, guys.
We do.
I'm gonna miss you guys when this is
bang this
over.
out.
I know.
I'm gonna miss this 137-degree room.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. The fact that it's 60 degrees outside, but it's no less hot inside is
I'm
just
gonna
an
miss
abomination.
I
Dave's
just don't understand,
army
'cause she's
surplus
working
wife
Friday.
beater.
Because it's Sunday and they shut off all of the because we've been doing this on Sundays and they shut everything off. So it's just a stale building of air from Friday.
Dave, where did you get that GI Joe wife beater?
This was one of those like packs from like Kmart.
Okay, I didn't know they made them in green.
No, they
I
make
think
it.
that-
You get like a whole bunch of colors. You just get a pack. And
Oh,
they're all
you
just
got the
whatever.
multi pack.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, I work out in these and also do radio in them now, so I need a lot of them.
Do you wear jean shorts at the gym? What's up?
No, we're regular, working out shorts because it's hot. Also, I live in an all Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, so I leave the house wearing what you're seeing me in right now, like to jog, and I am the whore of 8th Street.
Okay, everybody else has a beaver skin hat on right now.
Oh yeah. Oh no, everyone's living outside right now for Sukkot. It's
Oh yeah.
It's that thing where the Orthodox Jews basically go camping next to their house for a few days.
I knew there was some meal that was supposed to happen in a tent or something.
Yeah, they build
that's now?
basically like a nice tent with real Home Depot supplies, and they have to live in it for like several days.
Isn't that just called a house?
No, it's
Like
like
a real sturdy tent
It's
with
basically-
walls and like wood.
the thing
TVs
is,
in it.
it's basically like corrugated tin and 2x4s, and they make a structure every year just to sleep in because that's the rule,
That
and
is so
then
silly.
break it down,
I mean, isn't this a religion from 3,500 years ago?
something like that. Yeah,
Isn't it amazing that a religion that one of its cornerstones was cutting your penis caught on?
Yeah. Well, it was very sandy out there, so I'm sure it had its benefits. And then, of course, it became huge in America to circumcise. Because back a while ago, it was just the Jews.
Yeah.
And then all of America started circumcising people's penises to stop us from masturbating. That's true. It was to stop
Why
us
does that-
Didn't take-
because
It has never stood in my way.
around 100 years ago.
I wanna jerk off,
Well, you know how like
but-
cornflakes were invented because they thought it would stop people from like there was an industry of thinking they could stop masturbation back then. Oatmeal, cornflakes,
Graham
all the-
cracker.
Like
Yeah.
most breakfast foods were invented because they thought if you eliminated all flavor and protein from people's diets, they'd be too tired to masturbate. And so they thought that one of the ways you can stop people from jerking off is that you give them you get rid of the foreskin, because when you have foreskin, it gets itchy, and sometimes you have to rub it to make it not itch anymore, and then you're masturbating. Like
Maybe
were
if they cut off a
fucking
piece of it
lunatics.
every month, so you're just always recovering from that tiny little surgery.
But yeah, that is why America circumcises. Not for any good reason, because we were obsessed with jerking off. Now, granted, it just looks nicer.
Yeah,
But I agree.
I think I led us astray.
I mean, if we're gonna be talking about dicks,
I mean, what,
did
Rachel,
you guys,
do you want to suck a circumcised dick?
No, I'm good on that. Probably.
All right,
Yeah.
great. So you've made your choice. Sorry, Marissa.
are you asking me if I want to suck a circumcised dick?
No,
Or
I'm
an
asking,
uncircum-
I'm asking you to continue your point that you were just making.
I also thought you were asking her.
Yeah,
No,
and
I
I'm
was
like-
I was asking her to continue. I'm sorry.
No,
you
so like
would.
while we're talking about penises,
Talking about
did you
dicks.
guys hear about Stormy Daniels and Trump's toad-looking dick?
Toadstool.
Toadstool.
Toadstool looking dick.
Okay.
I could have guessed.
He
that.
has a dick like it's described as like a mushroom but small. I guess we're talking about this.
I always pictured it like the last sweet potato on the rack.
Just like dry and
Yeah, a little bit of a like unnecessary bend to it, like
Yeah.
a hair coming out of the end.
I feel like it looks like I always pictured Trump's dick looking like a drunk's nose.
I always thought
Like
it looked
W.C.
like a
Fields'
baby
nose.
carrot.
I feel like the word "always" here is getting thrown around, and I've never thought about Trump's dick before Stormy Daniels came out. But no, I feel like he
Ever?
I kind of
Yes,
size.
well-
Well, don't you kind of picture everyone's dick when you meet them?
I will now. I
Yeah.
feel like
First
you've
I smell
ruined
their
my
butt,
ability to
and
meet-
then
say, "Hey, what's your name?" And I'm guessing you hang a little to the left. But no, I feel like Trump is just vain enough that it wouldn't surprise me if she had come out and been like, "Yeah, well, it took a while for him to get it up with the penile implant and everything." Like he absolutely would have surgery to make his
well,
dick.
I feel like if it was above average, we already would have known about it, and if it was big, we would have seen it.
Yeah, he would have leaked that by now.
If it was 10 inches, he definitely would have just posted it.
I mean,
I'm
this is
surprised that he hasn't said that this is a lie, though. Like I think that he's so vain that he'd be like, "Oh, she's lying. I don't have a problem down there."
well. The thing is,
Well, he
according
does
to
comment.
Believe me.
according to the Daily News, gossip pages from the 80s, Donald Trump had sex with almost every famous woman who ever lived. So I would think that one of them would have come out by now and said whether or not this was true. I don't know if you know that. According to the Daily News, he had sex with Madonna and
Right, but wasn't Johnny
all of
Miller
them.
the one that was leaking that?
Well, yes, he was pretending to be his own publicist, leaking these stories, but that doesn't mean they're not true.
Yeah.
When he said that at one time he did say all the female celebrities are trying to date him, and that was him impersonating, his own
Right.
publicist. But yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe it wasn't true. We should ask Madonna. He did say he fucked Madonna back in the 80s.
That would have been really
it's
weird
such an obvious lie.
if she went
I don't know
straight.
if she was awake when it happened.
Yeah, she went from Dennis Rodman to Trump in 1 week. Like it's been a really weird horror week. All kinds of shit is happening out in these streets.
Do you remember when he said he broke up a mugging? This is a true story. We're going to wrap up real quick. Donald Trump years ago told the Daily News that he stopped a man from killing another man with like an axe, and then turns out that he was the own witness, and then all the other witnesses said, yeah, a few minutes after a guy got hit with an axe, Donald Trump's limo stopped, he got out, looked at it, and got back in his car. So anyway, we got to go. I'm Dave Cyrus. You can check me out if you're in Syracuse. I'll be there September 30th. If you're in other places, I'll probably be there too. I don't know. Check me out, Dave Cyrus, SIRUS, on all the stuff. Marissa.
You can follow me on Twitter at Marissa Smith. I'm going to be judging the Harlem Comedy Festival tonight and I believe next Sunday. And also you can check out Merriment and Mortification, Auto Shrunken Head on October the 6th. Richie.
Everything is at Richie Redding, and listen to my podcast. It's called Pets and Punchlines. It's really dumb. It's comics with pets talking to vets. It's comedians talking about their dogs and getting advice from my veterinarian girlfriend. And it gets really weird. If you want to learn all kinds of stuff about animal dicks, this is the show for you, Pets and Punchlines.
I wanted so much to find out it was pets and veterans.
Peter.
I have so many questions about your podcast now that I have to ask you after this. I am going to be getting back into the swing of things in October, so you got to wait for me. If you want to see me perform, you have to wait until October and just kind of check me out then. You can always look online to see where I'm at, Peter Brocker. Otherwise, keep an eye out.
Okay, you guys. This has been Blame Storming. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.